Everybody, welcome to What a Day. I'm your host, Joe Lowry, and joining us today is a true warrior and a Massachusetts native who has spent the last 7 years with the WWE. That is up until this past midnight. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. DIJAK.
Hey, Joe, what a day.
There you go. And I see we have an added feature here. Who's the little one's name?
This is my daughter, Amelia. She's 3 years old. She turns 4 in 1 month.
1 month. Beautiful. Hello, Amelia. Welcome. So, elephant in the room, let's get it right to it. You blew up the internet yesterday with your letter, pretty much telling all. I was scrolling across social media. I came across it. Of course, Amelia is there. She has it in her hand. Can you just let the fans know the reasoning behind the letter?
Yeah. So the reasoning behind the letter is I wanted to be as truthful and transparent as I possibly could be. You know, I'm currently working with a team of I mean, they're all my friends, but they're guys who support me. My management group, Paragon Talent Group, and which is Dean Mutati, also known as Mojo Raleigh, and his partner Steve K. So these guys have been working tirelessly on my behalf, just in terms of working towards a contract negotiation with WWE, which, as I said, obviously never happened. But they've kept me up to beat every step of the way. A couple, I guess it was only about a few days ago when I presented them, because I thought of this idea about a week ago, maybe a little more than a week ago.
Okay.
And basically my thought process was, I know what usually happens in this situation, and what usually happens is you shift the narrative to make yourself seem as valuable and as important as humanly possible, right? That's what everybody does in a contract negotiation, because we want to seem important, we want to seem valuable, like everybody's chomping at the bit to come get us.
Exactly.
The reality of the situation was WWE, for whatever reason, decided that they were not interested in even offering me the current contract that I was on at that time.
Okay. So,
I felt like that was a poor decision on their part, obviously.
Sure. Right.
I felt I had a pretty good sense of how the fan base generally feels, because I'm pretty in touch with a lot of the fans online. I talk to fans at events. I don't know if Endeavor does that. I don't know if the WWE office does that. Maybe they see what they want to see. I don't know. You know, I'm not on that side of it. I'm on my side of it.
Right. Do you feel like this is a trend, so to speak? Because I mean, basically, unfortunately, is this how they're negotiating or non-negotiating anymore? I mean, you have the Becky Lynch deal. Her deal runs out. She's home now doing whatever, and that's fine. Ricochet not renewing his contract. Chad Gable renewing his contract pretty much at the last minute. Did you feel that maybe there was a sense, maybe last night, the day before, they were going to call you and say, hey, we're going to keep you on? Did you have anything like that? Or did you pretty much know ahead of time that, okay, my tenure here in the WWE is over?
We thought that maybe this was a negotiating tactic, especially early on in the, and I'm saying early on, we're talking about days at this point, right? This wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
But we thought that it could be a negotiating tactic.
Okay.
But the more that things started to transpire, I was never convinced of that, because I've been with WWE for a long time. I know a lot of these people on a professional level, on a personal level.
Right.
I know how they operate. I know what something looks like, and what even if someone is telling me something, I know whether it's sugar-coated or not. You know, I've been around the business in WWE long enough to be able to interpret things and take you need to stop, and to be able to take small hints when they're being given to me.
Sure.
I felt like as long ago as the night of the draft, that's when I got my first big hint that I'm not sure that they're as interested in me as I am in them.
Okay.
And from there were little steps along the way that kept giving me indicators of, I'm not sure this is going the way that we want it to. I'm not sure this is going the way that we want it to. And it kept trending in that direction. And then the day I got the phone call from Mojo, the second he started talking to me, I was like, yeah, I know where this is going. And from that moment, because he represents lots of people. He sees negotiating tactics all the time. I don't.
He's got plenty to choose from. I get it. Yeah.
He thought maybe this is a negotiating tactic. They're trying to get your value down. They're trying to whatever it was. And I looked at the situation. I said, it doesn't feel like that to me. It didn't.
You had mentioned the draft, and that was obviously after WrestleMania weekend, which you put on a hell of a match. You did note in your letter that a top executive said that you crushed it.
Yep.
Can you name that top executive who it was?
I can. I'm not going to. That was left. For a very specific reason.
Okay.
He knows who he is. You all know who he is.
I'm sure we'll figure that out at a later point.
Yeah, maybe he'll say. I don't know.
Do you feel they were deceptive? Do you feel the WWE was kind of deceptive because you've had this great? You had your matches last year against Dragunov were off the wall. Your feud with Gacy was off the wall. The Asylum match at NXT was unbelievable. You're putting on these 5-star matches, in my opinion, anyways. And I know that a lot of fans agree with me. And then all of a sudden, nothing. And do you think, negotiating tactics aside, do you feel this is kind of deceptive from the WWE to string? You're a 7-year employee. It's not like you just signed with these guys and you were experimenting and all this stuff. You've been up to the main roster. You were part of a major storyline with Retribution and so forth. Is it deceptive in a way? Is it the change of management? Is it TKO and Endeavor? Or is it WWE?
So there's been a lot of There's been a lot of talk about that and how Endeavor has handled the UFC, and now we're coming into WWE. Apparently, this is par for the course. People who are familiar with Endeavor tell me that this is par for the course. I don't know Endeavor. I've never met Ari Emanuel. I don't know how the whole thing operates or works. So I can't speak to that, but from people who are familiar with the industry and who understand the industry standards, apparently this is very par for the course for them. So that's fine. I mean, they own the company. He's filthy rich. You can do whatever you want.
Sure.
If that's your business model, that's your business model. Will it come back to bite them? I don't know. Well, frankly, probably not. In America, sometimes things tend to be too big to fail. So, like, if you have all the money in the world, you're probably not going to struggle too much. So I think they'll be fine. I think they'll retain the talent that they need to maintain their status at the top of the mountain, and I think they'll be completely fine. That being said, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face. Like you could have had. I'm a very confident person. I think I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world. I've never been shy about saying that. You could have had one of the best wrestlers in the world for pennies on the dollar, and you didn't. So to me, that's a bad decision. It's a bad, let's save pennies where we could have made dollars. But they're going to make money. It's not like they're going to look at their bottom line at the end of the year and be like, "Damn it, we should have kept DIJAK." They're not going to say that. Could they have made a little more? Absolutely. But
now the letter is very descriptive. It's very detailed. Like you said, it doesn't alter any narratives. You're brutally honest in this letter. You were hurt one time in 7 years.
Yep.
You were thankful, disappointed, but you're excited. Who came up with the term "It's time to do or die, Jack"?
That's me. Yeah.
That's great. I thought that was great.
If you ever see a catchphrase or anything like that, I came up with all of it. WWE never gave me anything like that.
That's great.
The only things they ever gave me are the things that were terrible, like T-Bar and Retribution and stuff like that.
So, all right. So let's talk about your tenure in WWE real quick. 7 years. You were NXT. You had a little glitch there. You were with Ring of Honor, then you went to WWE or something like that. They were offering you a contract. They didn't offer you a contract, but then you ended up going with WWE. You had to fulfill your Ring of Honor bookings. What was it like? Let's do a little thing here. 7 years ago, you're with WWE compared to now. Are the working conditions the same, or have they changed dramatically since then?
Well, what do you mean by working conditions?
Well, the other elephant in the room, of course, is the Vince McMahon saga and so forth like that. Have you seen a change in the WWE locker rooms since this whole thing with Vince McMahon and the allegations and the federal investigation have come down, and since he's no longer allowed to be in the WWE? Have you seen that change environmentally, morale, things of that nature?
I mean, I haven't. Oh, stop. Sorry. Everybody is going nuts right now. My daughter wants to talk to me. One dog is like throwing up, I think. Another dog is barking. I have no idea what's causing everybody to act like that.
You gotta love the family life, brother.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to do this interview with you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
You wanted to get it out of the way. Yeah, I haven't seen Vince since that day. I've told this story a couple times actually, that I think I'm the last person who ever spoke to Vince in a creative fashion in terms of talent, because I was probably the last person to speak with him on the Monday Night Raw before the New York Times article was released, and then we never saw him again.
Okay.
I shouldn't say we never saw him again, because he was at TV a few times with some friends of mine who were there when I was still in NXT.
Okay.
He had his little mustache thing going on and his rich penny bags thing. I'm going to phrase this as best I can.
Sure.
Because I know people are going to keep asking me about this, and I'm going to tell it as best I can. When you're in WWE, as long as I have been, you have a lot of friends who've been there and have acquaintances, and everything trickles down, and sometimes more than everything trickles down. And so you hear lots and lots and lots of rumors, right? Okay. I've heard something about this guy. I've heard this guy's doing that. And you can't give any of it any credit, because if you do, then the whole place is an asylum, right? It's like everybody's insane and everybody's doing everything illegal. It's like whatever. So I had heard as much as I had heard anything else about Vince and doing inappropriate things with people in the office and whatever. Sure. So I heard those rumors, but I've heard millions of rumors, right? You can't say, oh, that's that. But when I hear those rumors and then I see like an article that's like, oh, here's the allegations, that's when I connect the dots, because I used to be a criminal investigator, right? I used to work alongside law enforcement in the judicial system. So that's when I start to connect dots and say, okay, I can't prove in a court of law that this happened, but there's more than reasonable doubt to assume that it probably was happening, because I've heard the hearsay, and now there's legal documentation and whatever. Yeah. So again, I don't know these people. I know people who knew these people. Okay. So I can't confirm that anything was happening, but I heard enough.
You didn't witness anything out of the ordinary backstage with Vince and the Divas and all that stuff and all that.
Never.
I mean, that's fine.
I witnessed some of the craziest nonsense you'll ever see in your entire life. Don't get me wrong.
You can't dangle the carrot. What did you see? Just give me one example. Something crazy.
Let's see. I mean, there's a million anecdotes about Vince just losing his mind and screaming at people and
was he a hothead? Was he a hothead like that? Or
in moments, yeah. It certainly depended on the situation. A lot of the time he was very calm, like a grandfatherly sort of figure. But when he got mad, he'd start screaming. I remember one time we were in Gorilla and Damian Priest was wrestling. Okay. And he just started like, we're the next match out. And he just starts screaming at the monitor, like Priest could hear him somehow. He's like, grab him, Damian, grab him. You gotta grab him, Damian. And we're like, everybody in Gorilla just stops and they're like looking at him like Vince, he can't hear you. You're screaming at a monitor. Like,
oh, wow. Okay. So
yeah, that's
so basically, the bottom line is there is a huge difference now between when Vince was there up until now, and your 7 years. Is a change in morale in the locker rooms and so forth.
Huge is a big word.
Okay.
I would call it gradual. There is definitely a gradual trend.
Okay.
In terms of trending in a better direction.
Okay.
And again, I'm not speaking about
sure.
those sort of allegations or anything like that, because I never saw anything like that.
Right.
I only heard hearsay.
Sure.
Now, the morale seems to be trending in a better direction. Okay. Then again, you're talking to a guy who, despite all the shortcomings and despite everything that happened to me and how many times I sat at home in this seat staring at my phone waiting for the 203 number to pop up and waiting to get fired.
Right.
It never happened.
Okay.
That only happened under the current regime. That's the only time in my career where anyone has come to me and been like, we don't have a contract for you. Wow. Under Vince and Johnny Ace, for all their shortcomings,
Yeah.
I always had a contract. So
you're seeing both sides of it, kind of.
Yeah, in terms of morale, like my morale isn't very high on currently on the people who are no longer paying.
You don't want to come across as the disgruntled ex-employee and all that
No,
stuff.
not at all. Because I understand business decisions. I understand all of that. Right. But that being said, I can't sit here and be like everything's peachy keen because like I think that they're not making certain great decisions that involve me. So like that's a piece of the pie.
So you've been working with Dean Mutati and all those guys, Mojo, Mojo Rawley. They're representing you now and so forth.
Yes.
Okay. So have they even had any whispers that maybe down the line they'll give you a call back, or if something pops up or something like that, or is this just cut and dry? That's it. No contract. You're pretty much ghosted by the higher ups in regards to a contract negotiation.
They've always worked so hard on my behalf.
Right.
They know that at this point we can put all our cards on the table, and for a while, again, we're talking about less than a month, right? Okay. But for a good portion of this series of time, I've been under the impression of like, let's try to figure this out. Let's see what went wrong and where and why.
Okay.
Now I'm at the point where, as recently as a couple days ago, it was represented to me like, hey, look, like we can try one last gasp. We can see if something happened. Maybe they saw this letter, and because I don't know when this is going to air, but as of today, as of live, today is June 28th. So I'm still a WWE employee right now until midnight tonight, I guess. This, you can get down if you want to get down. Okay, well then you need to sit still.
So we could be talking right now, and the phone could ring and say, "Hey, we need you on SmackDown. Here's a flight."
And if it did, I wouldn't go. There would need to be major either financial compensation or things written in stone.
Right. Okay.
That creatively cannot change, because my trust level at this point is, especially if you've done all this and then it's like, JK, we just wanted to get a better deal and here's your offer and you'll take what we give you. Like I'm not going to be danced around like a monkey.
Working with NXT, Shawn Michaels, obviously you enjoyed your time with them and so forth. Storyline wise, you killed it with Joe Gacy. How was it like working with him?
With Joe Gacy?
Yeah.
Tremendous. He's an exceptional talent. Everybody in NXT was an exceptional talent. Between the creative, the writers, and again, no situation like that is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, right? Like no one's 100% happy with everything in the creative direction, everything that's happening. And there were stretches where I would lose a feud and I'd be off TV for a couple of weeks and I'd be like, man, I wish this wasn't happening, and etc. But we all go through that. That's nothing I hold against them, because they always circled back and came to me and said, here's our ideas. Let's work together. Let's make a collaboration. And they were always super good at that, which is the exact opposite of what I experienced on the main roster and what most people below like the very tippy top of the food chain experience on the main roster, especially under Vince. Under Vince, it was very much like, here's what you're doing, and if you don't like it, you better have a good reason why.
Yeah, you could see that in the product nowadays too. So much better product, so to speak. So if you had one word to describe your tenure with the WWE, what would it be?
One word. It's almost impossible to
2 words
come up with one word. If I had to pick one word, I'd say thankful.
Okay.
I am thankful. As much as I and I included that in this. I said the first thing I said was I'm thankful, disappointed, but also excited. So if I had to pick 2 words, I'd say thankful and disappointed, because that's how I feel. I feel like I'm the best wrestler in the world. I feel like they they didn't believe that I was the best wrestler in the world. I know they didn't believe I was the best wrestler in the world. If they thought I was the best wrestler in the world, they would, I'd
Exactly.
employed. So I feel that way about myself. I feel strongly about that. And I feel like I just needed a little bit more opportunity to continuously prove that. And I felt like I started getting in NXT, and then it wasn't totally recognized, because we're talking 2 months ago, I had one of the best matches in NXT history, and here we are.
And then, of course, I'll put the letter back up here. And when I screenshotted this, I did notice one individual's name that was highlighted that actually liked your letter. That's by the person name of Mr. Tony Khan.
Oh, yeah.
Any thoughts? Anybody reached out to you? Have you had any talks or discussions? I know you're technically can't do anything officially until midnight, the 28th. Yeah. But could this be a possibility right here? Would DIJAK become all elite? If
no, that is not a possibility, and I'll tell you why.
Why is that?
Because I signed when I moved down to NXT. I told them I'd like to be called DIJAK. My real name is DIJAK. My name is Chris. My name is Chris DIJAK.
Right.
That's my real name. And I said, everybody calls me DIJAK. I'd love to be known as DIJAK. And they said, okay, we need you to sign. And they handed me a document. And they said, we need you to sign this. This says that in a professional wrestling context, WWE owns exclusively just the word DIJAK by itself. Okay. If I go to another pro wrestling company, I can be Bill DIJAK. I can be Chris DIJAK. I can be Donovan DIJAK. But I can't be just DIJAK. Right. Okay. And the only places you're going to be able to enforce that are on things like that, where it just says DIJAK, or like a T-shirt that just says DIJAK, right? Because if I'm in the ring and I clothesline a guy, DIJAK rips his head off, you're not going to get a cease and desist for referring to someone by their last name.
Exactly.
But if you start putting out merchandise and products that just say DIJAK, yes, that would be not
okay. Will Mr. Christopher DIJAK ever become all elite? Let's put it.
Donovan, my name's right there. You typed it in. It's Donovan.
Donovan DIJAK. Will he be all elite?
I don't know. I'm totally open to the option. That's why I tagged all those things, because I wanted all the figureheads of professional wrestling. And by the way, I would have tagged MLW and Court Bauer as well, but I couldn't.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it says you can't tag on you can't tag these posts on social media. But yeah, I tagged what I considered to be the pillars of television in the United States. And I said, I want these people to experience what I experience every day. And that's when I speak the truth that I get a huge response. And that's exactly what happened. I think that tweet got 3 million views. I think it has millions of views on Instagram and TikTok and everything else.
Yeah, you're doing very well on social media. I mean, you're trending and so forth. I have a feeling, my gut's telling me that you're not going to be out of work for much longer. I know midnight to 28th, the time this airs, you'll be a free agent and so forth. It could be AEW, TNA, a possibility with that crossover with NXT. Now that would be something else. Seeing Dana / Ash by Elegance show up the other night with Jordan Grace's match, that was kind of a riot. Could you see something in that capacity?
Yeah. So so in those tags, I tagged TNA and Tommy Dreamer as well, who I'm good friends with. I've known Tommy for a long time.
Tommy's a good guy.
So yeah, I think that would be hilarious, to be honest, because I kind of get pulled from NXT in the capacity where they wanted me, and they wanted me there, and then not used, and then not re-signed, and then back to TNA, which now has a connection back to NXT, which would be funny, because you could theoretically just slip me right back into a feud with Trick Williams if you really wanted to for the NXT Championship, because that's the kind of stuff that's happening right now. But do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think I could very well show up on TNA, and I'd love the opportunity to show up on TNA. And I've expressed that to them as well. And so far they seem receptive to it. Again, these aren't contract negotiations. It's just me speaking with friends who have involvement in those sort of decisions, right? Because a lot of these companies, you got to remember, a lot of these companies outside of WWE use unsigned independent contracted talent. So I can show up anywhere. I can show up Saturday night at TNA. I can show up Sunday at AEW. All of that is well within the realm of possibility. It's just whether or not.
And I'll ask it again, but I'm sure there's no NDA. You're a free agent as of midnight. That's it. Ties are cut with WWE. You can walk down the street, go back to chaotic wrestling if you wanted to, where it all began for you, and pop in there and say hi.
Was just texting the owners of Chaotic Wrestling.
Yep,
Yeah, so
I'm sure they'd love to have you.
popping up everywhere.
Right now, you back up in Massachusetts now, or
I live in New Hampshire, but it's very close to Massachusetts.
Live free or die. I know exactly where you are. That's where we're looking at houses up there as well. New Hampshire, Maine, coastline, all that stuff. So that's awesome. Awesome. Well, what else is a possibility for you? Any chance of wrestling schools, training, that type of thing?
I'm
open to it all.
You literally, this when we're filming this right now, I'm literally in the middle of that conversation.
Really, that is awesome. I feel you have a lot to give back, especially to the young ones coming up that want to pursue a career in professional wrestling. It's so different now. The landscape is so different. Probably when you started wrestling, the landscape has changed. There's a lot more out there. There's a lot more to offer. There are a lot more independents, a lot more companies.
Yeah, and oddly enough, this is something I'm learning, and I didn't realize because I've been out of the game so long. Right?
Exactly.
Last time I was on the Indies was 2017, so we're talking a 7 years difference now. Yeah. I didn't realize how inexperienced the independent scene is, because when I came up on the Indies, it was just chock full of veterans, just like guys who'd been wrestling forever, just all this experience,
trying to keep alive and relevant and so forth. Yeah.
Kevin Steen was on the Indies.
Kevin Steen.
Huge names, these huge
DIJAK,
powerful names. That had so much, and there was so many of them, right? Like you couldn't throw a rock without hitting a free agent who was a huge draw and a huge name. That doesn't exist much anymore because almost all these guys are signed, right? Yeah. And I'm learning that very quickly with the 186 inbox emails that I have right now. Because people need experienced talent, and there's not a lot of it. There's a lot of green guys on the Indies right now because almost everybody with experience is either locked up with AEW, TNA. You know, there's so many options now for contracts that if you're on the independent scene, I mean, that's why Matt Cardona is making such a killing right now, because he's, Matt's cool guy. You can count on one hand the amount of guys who are unsigned who have that level of prestige. So there's a wide open field right now.
You never know that door could open again on February 1st when the Royal Rumble comes to Indianapolis. We might even see a return of DIJAK for a one-off. You never know that.
Listen, I think that's awesome. I think people would love it. Right now, I'm in a spot where I've put my heart out on my sleeve, and I've said exactly what has happened, so everybody knows that. As of this moment, that's not how that company feels about me. I'm going to change their mind. That's my job. There you go, and that's usually what happens. And real quick before we wrap up, any WWE talent been reaching out to you, wishing you luck? All of them. All of them been reaching out. Anybody notable? The WWE locker room. Yep. I will never say a disparaging thing about anybody in that locker room. And quite frankly, this goes for AEW and TNA. I've reached the point in my career where if I turn on the TV, it's just a litany of guys that I've wrestled. It was bittersweet watching that clip from the fight in Gorilla between Punk and Jack Perry. I've never met Jack Perry. I met Punk for the first time when he started doing that stuff with NXT. He was a lovely individual. By all accounts, Jack seems like a nice guy. He's friends with a ton of guys that I'm good friends with. And obviously they just had an altercation. But even watching that video, it was so fun to see a bunch of guys that I didn't even realize worked for AEW. Oh, really? Like Chris Hero runs in and Sanjay Dutt runs in. I'm like, oh, shit, I wrestled all these guys, like all the agents in AEW. I know all them. I know all the wrestlers. I know it's this fun thing when you've been in wrestling for 12 years like I have. Because in my mind, I don't feel like a veteran, but when I look back at the body of work, I'm like, oh shit, I have been doing this. Well, I'm not a betting man, but I'm sure DraftKings already have odds up on you going possibly to AEW, which I think you would fit right in there, and you're probably the breath of fresh air that they actually need right now. So I think you'd be welcome over there, and it would keep you in the limelight, so to speak. It would keep you relevant and so forth. And I'd love to see you over there, but wherever you do end up, I wish you the best of luck.
Do you have any parting words for your fans out there who've supported you for the last 7 years with WWE?
No, thank you so much. I mean, you guys are, if you want to keep following me outside of WWE, and trust me, I understand people who just watch WWE. Pro wrestling's a big commitment.
Oh,
But
yes.
if you liked what you saw from me in WWE, this will be a whole new experience for you, because once the proverbial handcuffs come off, and I don't mean handcuffs like they held me back or something.
Right.
I mean just like the time constraints of television, which can be very taxing, right? I think in my WWE run, I had one match that was 30 minutes, one match that was 22 minutes, and every other match was under 20.
Yep.
When you're on the indie, my first 10 matches will all be 25 minutes or longer, and they'll all be spectacular, right? Because I it's just I know what I bring to the table. So if you're looking for me as I'd like to be presented, you're gonna feast your eyes.
Well, I'm very excited to see what the new chapter for DIJAK holds. Donovan DIJAK, I should say, holds effective midnight tonight, the 28th. We're filming this in the morning, so less than 12 hours from now, you will be a free agent, which means you could land anywhere, and I'm sure you're going to land somewhere. Just like other former WWE superstars who've said, they enjoyed their time in WWE, but when that clock struck 12, they felt such a relief and such excitement. Like you said in your letter, you're excited. You're looking forward to the future. So I wish you nothing but you, as well as Amelia and your family, the best of luck. And I want to welcome you. Thank you for coming on. What a day.
Thank you very much. What a day.
All right. What a day. Thanks, folks. I'm Joe Lowry. You've been speaking with Donovan DIJAK, formerly of the WWE.